Welcome to my channel Car Auto, ladies and gentlemen. The Citroën DS 1970 stands as one of the most innovative and iconic vehicles in automotive history, a car that redefined not only Citroën's legacy but also the expectations of comfort, design, and technology in an era dominated by convention. Introduced in 1955, the DS was already a revolutionary car by the time the 1970 model arrived. With nearly 15 years of refinement and evolution behind it, the 1970 Citroën DS was a matured, advanced automobile that still felt ahead of its time. Even decades later, it remains a symbol of French engineering ambition, elegance, and a relentless pursuit of innovation. The DS name came from the French word, déesse, meaning goddess, a fitting title for a car that stunned the world with its futuristic aesthetics and unparalleled ride quality. The 1970 model carried forward the sleek, aerodynamic silhouette that made the DS instantly recognizable. The body design, penned by Italian sculptor and industrial designer Flaminio Bertoni, featured smooth curves, a tapering rear, and a long, low profile that made it look more like a spacecraft than a sedan. Even in 1970, with many new competitors emerging, the DS retained its visual dominance. Its distinctive styling wasn't just for show, it was functional. The aerodynamic shape helped with fuel efficiency and stability, especially at high speeds on European motorways. By 1970, Citroën had updated the DS lineup with several variations, including the standard DS, the sportier DS Palace, the practical Safari station wagon, and the ID series, which was a simpler and more affordable version. One of the most remarkable things about the DS was its hydraulic system, which controlled not only the suspension but also the brakes, steering, and even the gear shifting in some models. This advanced hydro-pneumatic suspension system allowed the car to maintain a constant ride height regardless of load, and it offered an incredibly smooth ride that could glide over rough roads with ease. Passengers often described the experience as floating, a feeling unmatched by any of its contemporaries. In the 1970 iteration, the DS benefited from further refinements to this hydraulic system, making it more reliable and easier to service. The suspension system was especially valued in France's diverse driving conditions, from cobbled urban streets to rugged countryside roads. The ride quality set a new standard for comfort, and it earned the DS a loyal following among government officials, professionals, and artists who valued both luxury and individuality. Under the hood, the 1970 DS models were equipped with a range of inline-4 engines, typically ranging from 2.0 to 2.3 liters, depending on the variant. While the DS wasn't a performance car by traditional measures, its engines provided adequate power for cruising and long-distance travel. The top-spec DS-23, which arrived around this time, delivered about 115 horsepower and could reach a top speed of around 115 miles per hour, 185 kilometers per hour. The availability of a semi-automatic transmission, also hydraulically controlled, was another example of Citroën's forward-thinking approach to technology. For many drivers, it offered the perfect blend between the ease of an automatic and the control of a manual gearbox. One of the most memorable updates introduced around the 1970 model year was the addition of directional headlamps on the DS Palace and DS-21 models. These headlamps would turn with the steering, allowing drivers to see around corners at night, an innovation that wouldn't become standard in the industry for decades. It was yet another way in which Citroën demonstrated its commitment to driver safety and advanced design. The car's wide panoramic windshield, narrow A-pillars, and thoughtfully designed dashboard further enhanced visibility and driver ergonomics. The interior of the 1970 Citroën DS was just as revolutionary as its mechanical components. The dashboard featured a unique, asymmetrical layout with a single-spoke steering wheel, which allowed a clear view of the instrument panel and was also considered safer in the event of a collision. The seats were plush, often finished in high-quality materials, and designed for long-distance comfort. Rear passengers enjoyed exceptional legroom thanks to the car's spacious wheelbase, and the overall ambiance was one of refined sophistication. It was a car designed with human comfort at the center, echoing the luxury of much more expensive vehicles. The DS was also remarkably practical. Its large trunk, ease of access, and adaptable seating made it a versatile vehicle for families and professionals alike. The Safari model added even more utility, with a wagon body that maintained the DS's signature ride comfort while greatly expanding cargo space. This balance of form and function made the DS more than just a symbol of style. It was also a car for living, for traveling, and for working. Globally, the DS was a cultural phenomenon. It appeared in countless films and was famously used by French President Charles de Gaulle, who credited the car's stability and durability with saving his life during an assassination attempt in 1962. The DS had become more than just a car. It was a symbol of national pride and French ingenuity. By 1970, Citroën had sold over 1 million units, and the DS had firmly cemented its place in automotive history. Despite its many innovations, the DS was not without its challenges. The complex hydraulic system, while brilliant, required specialized knowledge to service and could be daunting for inexperienced mechanics. Citroën's commitment to innovation sometimes meant that reliability and ease of maintenance took a back seat to cutting-edge technology. Nonetheless, owners who understood the car's systems often remained loyal and passionate, appreciating the DS for its uniqueness and sophistication. In 1970, the automotive world was in a period of transition, with manufacturers experimenting with new materials, safety features, and designs. Yet, even among the wave of new cars, the Citroën DS stood apart. It didn't just respond to trends, it set them. The car's influence could be felt not only in France but across Europe and in export markets where its radical design intrigued buyers looking for something different. As Citroën moved into the 1970s, the DS continued to evolve. The final models, which would appear in the mid-1970s before being replaced by the Citroën CS, carried on the DS legacy but with even more powerful engines and slight refinements in styling and technology. Still, the 1970 model year marked a high point, a culmination of years of innovation, refinement, and prestige. Today, the 1970 Citroën DS is celebrated as a classic, a rolling piece of art that showcases what can happen when design, engineering, and imagination come together without compromise. Collectors and enthusiasts around the world cherish well-preserved examples, often displaying them at shows or maintaining them as weekend drivers. The DS remains a favorite among those who appreciate timeless elegance, engineering daring, and a truly unique driving experience. In many ways, the Citroën DS was a car decades ahead of its time. While many of its features, like self-leveling suspension, adaptive lighting, and ergonomic interiors, are commonplace now, they were groundbreaking in 1970. The DS didn't just participate in the evolution of the automobile, it accelerated it. For Citroën, the DS wasn't just a flagship, it was a philosophy on wheels, proving that cars could be more than machines. They could be expressions of art, comfort, and progress. Please subscribe to my channel Car Auto.